wanted to acknowledge that DJs and MCs, you have a video out for that. And I think that's a great song and tells a lot of your history. And you touch on that history in that song, which I think is, it's good to do. So now, since you did address it on DJs and MCs and just looking back at your career, like, is that you think that was helpful for you, hurtful? Did it matter if they were not going to push you anyway? Like, what are your thoughts?
It mattered. It mattered, definitely. I mean, man, any foolish thing you do, you can't look back and be proud of it. There's always a way to get your point across. I don't believe you should burn buildings in protests just because you disagree with what's going on. You protest in a way that can be heard and that's respectful and, you know what I mean, has some wisdom about it. So definitely foolish on my part to burn any kind of bridge ever. But if I had to do it over, I would have signed with Elektra. At the time they wanted to sign me, they had a bidding war, and Jive took me in his room, and they said, look, man, Brand Nubian, they were real popular at the time, not gold. P Rock CO Smooth, real popular, not gold. And it was somebody else, maybe Dale. And then they said, now look at us. Tribe Called Quest, go. KRS, go. Whoever else, go. I said, well, man, it's a no-brainer. That's how they sold me. But looking back, I was signed with Elektra because too many of us were at Jive. And so if one person didn't do well, they treated us as though everyone was not doing well, which kind of messed you up as far as your own identity and stance and getting your fair treatment as an individual. But definitely if I had to do it over again, no way I would disrespect executives and diss people and stuff like that. Like, wow, that's foolish.
Okay. So from that party up to two for 15, how were you like navigating being on a major label now being dropped? Like, how did that work? Did like Hyro be like, okay, we'll see you later, Snoop, or like were you still like what was happening?
No, I put out 2 for 15 with my own money. It wasn't mixed right, but I did it in the studio. Some of my beats, Teray beats, just because I was getting a better handle about who I was as an artist and rapping better and things like that. But not a part with Hyro didn't come until I betrayed Cash, and he was, it was done with me. And so I moved on, and then I put out Masterpiece, which was like my weakest album actually. Put it out, and then I just started from there, navigating on my own. I dropped the Extra Pro name. I started rapping under Lee Majors. I became Christian. I have a few albums under Lee Majors, Jay White and Lee Majors, me and my wife, Lee Majors and Regina Siobhan. And I just started going down that path. And so when people heard me rapping recently as Extra Prolific, they, oh no, don't do it to me, please. 25 minutes on my thing. They was like, man, you haven't missed a step. You know what I mean? Like, we thought you had quit rapping. Like, why are you rapping better? And it's been so long, but it wasn't that. I've been rapping. It wasn't under Extra Prolific, so many people didn't know about it. So that's where that came from.
Well, that leads me to a few questions. With the Masterpiece, that was when you were Extra Pro. So why did you abbreviate the name at that point?
Trying to make it a little more palatable for people. This was at a time people didn't even know what prolific meant. You hear it now. Oh, one of the most prolific artists, one of the prolific writers. You hear it now more and more, but people didn't even like, what is a prolific? So once again, trying to cut it up so people can chew it and understand it. So Extra Pro, I could be productive, professional, pro, whatever, proactive. It just was just cutting it down.
Okay. And then why did you change your name after the Masterpiece album?
Somebody called me Lee Majors in the studio, and I was like, oh, I like that. We're gonna call you Lee Majors on this one. I was like, oh, and it just kind of stuck with me. And since I was going into a whole nother arena, doing a whole different type of music, I said I might as well change the name because my sound had changed. The way I was rapping had changed. I have more of a West Coast flowmatic type of a style as opposed to boom bap. So I said, well, let me just change everything. when I started doing this new album, because the beats that were coming to me were boom bap and gave me that sound. I said, well, I think I'll use the old name because people will resonate with these beats under who I was as far as my title goes.
Yeah. Okay. Because speaking of like it's supposed to be the first song, Fresh Prince, you have a Master Ace, one of my favorite artists, does the intro there, just kind of introing you. And then I really, to your point, it sounded like the high level of what you were doing on Like It Should Be, but then also, you know, it sounds super great in my opinion, but it's also a lot uh, darker as far as the sound and even like I'd say how you're phrasing your words and your tone. So what what do you tie that evolution to?
Man, I can't say. I mean, the beats came to me, Pete Spray and O Love, shout out to them. He reached out to me. He said, "Man, I'm gonna give you a beat. You know, if you like it, flow over it." I heard it. The first one I did was "What I See." So I wrote what I felt at the time, and then he was like, "Man, let's do an album." I was like, okay." And he was like, "It should be called like it's supposed to be." I was like, "Nah." I was like, "Nah, I'm not feeling that." You know what I'm saying? Because that's a setup. Sometimes people like your stuff, and then you don't sound like the first one. We don't like it. That's happened with me before with an artist, and so. But then it kind of grew on me. As far as like my style, I don't know. I just wrote what came. I guess people do sound differently over the years. You know, voices change, they evolve. It's been 20 years or so. Um, but yeah, I was just giving it the way it came. Whatever came to me, I wrote down and didn't think too hard about it.
Okay. Now, you mentioned What I See, which is one of my favorite songs on Like It's Supposed to Be. And that one, there's a lot of interesting lyrical elements to it, in my opinion, some of which, like you say, how you're going to gangbang if you got a seed. You're talking about you're blind, but it's in your mind. You're talking about
Right,
your religion
right.
and that evolution for you. And then toward the end of the song, you talk about how you love Stevie Wonder, but you wouldn't let him drive you around. So, so there's a lot of like very thought provoking and memorable lyrics in that. So for the things that I mentioned in particular, like where do those come from?
Well, yeah, man, I've been Christian now for 20 years, and so you know, you hear foundational things, you hear principles, you hear wisdom, you hear growth. No matter what religion people are, usually artists grow. Like you see KRS on his first album, he got a thing. Like he'll spray your whole block up. But and then today he's teaching, he's giving you principles. And so it's the same thing. Ice Cube, he was the B killer, and now you know he's trying to do some other things. And so it's just a natural progression. And then I would try to put it in a way where it makes sense. Like when you read the Proverbs, it's not a whole lot of beating you over the head. It's wisdom, like fortune cookie type wisdom. Like you could just take it and give it to anybody and be like, man, that's deep. And so, like, how are you gang banging if you got a seed? If you care about the life that's in your house, why would you be killing other people? Just things to think about. I was listening to one guy. I guess he was a blood, and he was older. And I was just listening to him, and I said, man, that's not, you know, to me, like a old fool is a young fool who never changed. And so I'm like, I still hear the 20 something person talking, but he's 50 and say, you know, that's why I said something about why you 50, but where's the wisdom? And so, and then the perspective of like, my favorite singer is Stevie Wonder. He's the greatest of all times. His catalog is ridiculous. He can see things that all of us can't see, although he's an unsighted man. But just because I love him as a singer doesn't mean that I'm gonna let him drive me around. Meaning, just because I love you as a basketball player, don't mean that you're gonna tell me about politics. I may love you as a producer, but don't mean I'm gonna let you cook for me. I love you as who you are in your lane. I don't worship you. And so just to remind people to always think about what you like a person for. Don't let them bleed over into other areas and make pretend they're experts. Stevie Wonder can't drive no car, but he can see better than most of us.
And I think that's a very important distinction because celebrity has become so important in our culture, we lose fact or we lose sight of the fact that we can excel in certain things, but we have deficiencies in other areas, and all of us do. And that's the thing that, you know, I try to be better as a person in my weak areas, but I'm not able to play in the NBA. That's just not going to happen. You know, I would like to, but it's not going to happen. You know,
right.
That is what it is.
Right,
but,
right.
I just thought that was powerful that you brought that up in what I see. And then just from a musical standpoint on piano, which is one of my favorite beats, and another song I really liked was having the Beastie Boys and Outkast on the same back to back, because that really took me back to the Fat Outro of all these diverse influences that you have, or you draw from, or you pick from. So on piano, how and why do you think that works?
Man, that's for all of us who have enough history in this game. It's kind of a nostalgic. When I cut somebody, I'm not gonna cut nobody new unless they saying something but I really want to cut somebody who, you know, when I was coming up, these were the voices that did it. It was just a certain sound, a certain element. You didn't have a whole bunch of them to choose from. Just the Beastie Boys hearing their sound, take the voices, they take me back to middle school when I was trying to be a b-boy. When I hear Outkast or Andre 3000, he's one of the greatest, you know, hearing his voice, it represents something to me. And so it's not only about what he's saying, it's about the person. So when I'm cutting somebody in, I want it to be somebody to be like, oh, snap, I remember them.
And then another great song, and like it's supposed to be, in my opinion, is the Bang the Drums. And you have a nice video for that. And on that one, I thought it was cool how you sampled the Kendrick Lamar's Black Friday on there, where he's extra prolific. So when you heard that, or when the producer did you produce that one, or somebody bring that?
No, Love produced that. And at first I heard it and I let it pass by, but then I was done with the album, and then I heard those drums, like, man, let me hear that one with those drums again. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's different. I see why it passed me by, but I'm on it now. And the Kendrick Lamar thing is funny because people would come into me. They was like, man, have you heard Kendrick Lamar? Have you heard this guy? This guy sound like you. I was like, and enough people said, I was like, let me take a listen. And then I heard the Drink song. I was like, okay, it does kind of sound like me, but you're not in control of your tone, is what I was telling people. But they was like, nah, his cadence is a little bit, I took it with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, maybe not. And then when the shout out came, somebody reached out to me and said something about, oh, you said extra prolific. I said, oh, okay. So I think he maybe was a young person listening to me. And, you know, I was one of the guys he liked. So when I heard that, I was like, ooh, that'll be dope to put in. So it was my idea to put it on Bang the Drums, and it just happened to work out. It just fit. But obviously he's a dope lyricist. So it was all good.
Absolutely. Well, there it is. Well, extra prolific, man. We really appreciate you coming through, aka Snupe, for those that know.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Peace.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
There's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.